wanted to look at these huge pontoons. And my guess is that this big island continues on down there and hooks to a point, but we'll go inland now and back to the memorial I first came here to visit. You can see what a significant project this was, suggesting the whole redevelopment and upscale of this entire island. How long will pretty and old buildings like this survive against the onslaught of that kind of investment? For sale, I guess. You know this one's going to go when someone decides the property has value to develop. Imagine when this was a very important commercial building for this neighborhood. Imagine the fortunes won and lost. We're on the main drag right now, which is a mix. The area we walk down along the water's off to our left. This addition incorporated a balcony on the top. There's still another building of similar design to what we've seen. I wonder what they were, maybe even apartment houses in their day, as well as now with the new windows up above. This is an interesting concept. These are duplexes, I believe. Notice separate driveway here and one over there. And what's interesting about them is they each side has something quite unique about it. This one on the left has a tower, for example. And this one over here, this large second story you see, is the larger of the two components in that building. And there are several of those in that block, so I assume that it's one development, but one-offs in each case, it seems to be. Goes to this large single home. Big homes around here, if in fact they're homes, and somewhat curious too. If you look at this one and its long building, definitely we're looking at an expensive neighborhood. Shooting up to the top of this one, on the top of their fireplace, is a very unique smoke deflector, or ash deflector, if that's what it is. Now we go in search of it. So it opens at 12, whatever it is. This was a man who saved a number of Jewish people. Better to save yourself the energy of traipsing all about trying to find it by just looking on the internet, see who he was, and pay tribute to the man in your mind. We're now at the Jewish Ghetto Museum, or more broadly, the Minority Ghetto Museum. And this is pronounced to the English ear, Moscow, Moscovus, but it sounds like Moscow when they say it. There's sometimes cruelty added to. Here's the first wall display of the usual photographs, these not after the camps but before. And as I look at these, I'm always confronted by a couple of questions. How did they live their lives? What kind of fears did they suffer both before they were commandeered as well as after? And why do I look at these faces and believe that I can inherently detect Jewishism? And why do I care? Why does my psyche care? Now this woman, not so much. This man, maybe. But is it Jewish, or is he just like a Polish or one of the other Eastern Europeans? And these others, how could you tell? How would you know? And yet my brain seeks to do so. Take a few moments to stare into these faces. think he became the first president of the state of Israel. Looks reasonably happy and confident on that day, doesn't she? Is life full of promise on this day? Does this man's face suggest all may not be really well? That's how my own psyche makes these judgments, what I call prejudices or judgments. What's the difference except in somewhere its location on the spectrum? What did this intuitively mean to these two folks? Probably not even thinking about the fact that they were clasping hands. But what does it say about their thoughts for each other, their world, their future? You could do this the entire day and shoot up 60 gigabytes of SDXC card space. And we could do it here or in probably several hundred, if not more, towns throughout Europe. And here a pride in their Jewishness, but what a price to be paid. God forbid that these students of 1923 should have had the ability to foresee the future. God forbid that any of us could. This is apparently a map of the ghetto area that we walked the other day. This Moskala Zala, which may have been the street that we entered from. I think our deportation roster lists, if you will. Whether this building once had any specific significance for the ghetto, I don't know. But now it has. This. I'm reminded in a place like this of the military, U.S. military man that sat next to me on the plane flying into Berlin 55 years ago or so when I visited Berlin and East Berlin. And his comment to my bewilderment that Germans who are so much like us, interestingly at one time 60% of the American population, could do such a thing. And he said if we Americans had encountered the conditions of Germany between the First World War and the Second, we might have done exactly the same. A chilling thought for all human beings. Unfortunately, it supports my theory that man's inherently evil and just creates constructs for trying to be less so for a multitude of reasons. The happiness of walking through here is when people were born, the date varies. When they died, not so much. So on the balance of these cube faces are pictures or mementos sometimes of the persons depicted. The cruel irony of all of this is that in many of the cities, particularly the ones I've visited here in Lithuania and so far Latvia, the Jewish population was considered to be the intelligentsia. They were the sharp business people, the doctors, that sort of thing. They were what all of us aspired to be.